I know you can't wait to dive into it, this whole segment from last night. So the floor is yours, my friend. What did you think of the segment between The Miz and Gunther and the credibility that it sounded like, the added credibility it sounded like they're putting on that Intercontinental Championship?
Bro, I always consider Miz, and I do consider Miz one of the top 5 microphone guys of all time. Of all time. And saying that, there was a point in the beginning when Miz came out in the segment, Bully, to paint the picture. You saw he did Miz TV, and he invited Gunther to come out. They played the music a couple of times. Gunther didn't come out. And then all of a sudden, the cronies come out. And they get in the ring and they start telling Miz that he don't tell Gunther what to do. He said, I'm not trying to tell him what to do. I'm inviting him to be on a prestigious show for WWE, which is Miz TV. And they start to run him down. And Miz is hitting them with barbs. I mean, he is lighting their ass up. They not equipped to crack whip, as the great Dusty Rhodes would say, with the Miz. Gunther's music hits. And he comes down. And he starts telling Miz, like, you're a joke. That's how they view you. You're not serious. You've lost all your credibility. And Miz started to light Gunther up. And his comebacks were moderate. But Miz was out there with a razor blade, bro. And I'm like, hey, man, get out of the ring. Save yourself. That's how powerful Miz's ability on the mic. He is a full-fledged Jedi Knight. I wouldn't say a Sith, but Miz started to tell them, if I wanted to be a Sith Lord, I could be. Look at my resume. Look what I did in my career. I main evented WrestleMania and won. What have you done?
Mark, did you get the impression? Did you get the impression last night from Miz? Because you're painting a great picture for me, that Miz was basically telling the world, you're lucky I stay in my lane and I'm a professional, because if I ever wanted to, I could destroy you all on the microphone.
That's exactly what he said. And we said it about him about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, about when he had that promo segment with LA Knight. Miz had to dial it back because he was killing him. It wasn't even close. It wasn't fair. He had a knife. Miz had a gun. It was not fair. And that's what happened last night again. Except Miz let him know, I'm nice with this. And if I chose to be the guy that I'm that y'all say that I'm not, you wouldn't even be relevant. You wouldn't even be here. He even threw Maurice in there. What's Andre? What's my guy's? I'm sorry.
Who are you thinking about?
Forgetting his name. The bald guy that he never speaks. And I'm remiss in forgetting his name. Vinci.
Oh, Leonardo da Vinci.
Last night. Yeah, him. That guy.
Yeah.
That guy. He spoke last night. And Miss, oh, you speak. I never heard you speak before. And he said, I can talk whenever I want to. And he's, no, you don't. No, you can't. You speak when Gunther tells you to speak. And he said, he made a reference to, well, I guess you just do what your wife tells you to do. He said, you know what? If you was as hot as my wife, you could tell me whatever you want. I mean, he was bully. He was punching them in the face. And it wasn't shit they could do. Their hands was down. Miz is incredible on that microphone. And when he got that face-to-face with Gunther, man, he got in Gunther's face. He walked up about 3 steps. And he told him, that title you wearing, nobody gave a damn about that title. I made that title mean something. And you better be glad that I don't want it right now. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? Who is that? Bro, the Miz is special. And if they do what I think they're going to do, the only person, we talked about who could beat Roman Reigns. It's got to be somebody with credentials. It's got to be somebody special. It's got to be somebody that you can build to something greater. You know who could beat Gunther? Miz. He's credible enough. And it could lead to something even more. And we can get the Miz that we always wanted to see. I want to see the Miz that's the ass kicker Miz. Never saw it before. It's something new. And what's old can be new again if you have the talent. And Miz has the talent.
In listening to the audio that we came back with, it almost sounded like the tone in Miz's voice, other than I can take you whenever I want you, was, you know what? I'm sick and tired of not getting my flowers around here. Mm-hmm. And that's a term that you've coined about getting the flowers. Did you feel that? Did you feel like he stepped up to the plate last night and was almost like, I'm tired of not getting my flowers around here, and you people are going to finally understand just who the hell I am?
That's exactly how I felt. And the reason that we love Steve Austin is because Steve Austin bucked the establishment. He went to the boss for every guy that drove a truck, that worked at Home Depot, that taught school, that was a up-and-coming surgeon or a entry-level lawyer at their firm. They always had that boss that was standing over them. Why wouldn't you do this? Why would you do it like that? Yada, yada, yada. And Steve Austin was like, no, we're not doing that no more. I'll kick your ass. I'll take that stack of dimes you call a neck, and I'll walk it. And Miz did that last night with Gunther in a different way. Miz is the anti-bully guy now. The way that they painted the picture of him last night, bully, made me excited to watch wrestling. Because Miz was like, no, I'm not going to take the fact that you're calling me soft. I'm not going to take the fact that you're saying I'm not serious, that I played too much, that I'm out here to entertain, and I'm here to wear fancy clothes. Man, I'll take this suit off and beat your ass. That's the way Miz was projected last night, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Mark, last night, Monday Night Raw started off with Sami Zayn. Huge pop for Sami.
Wow.
Got the audio from what Sami had to say, and I'd like to play it for the nation right now.
My entire life, I have fought people like the Judgment Day. People who think like the Judgment Day. People that think that all that matters is power. And as long as you're chasing power, you can do whatever you want. You could be as ruthless as you want, as cutthroat as you want. You could rule with an iron fist. You can oppress whoever, whenever, as long as it's in the name of power. So that's fine. If that's the name of your game, fine. But understand that if that's your game, my name is not Sami Zayn. My name is Rebellion. My name is Resistance, and I will fight the Judgment Day, whether it's 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 4-on-1, 5-on-1, as long as there is a breath of air in my body.
Wow.
Wow. I told you. Powerful, man. The
Mark,
dude is. Go ahead.
I don't like yelling and screaming in promos, but sometimes yelling and screaming makes sense because it shows just how enraged and passionate you are about something. You know, in wrestling, when we first get into this game, we think we have to yell and scream and blah, 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 and, you know, play that pro wrestler. It don't work. As you mature in this business, you learn how to get your message across without having to yell and scream, much like Jake never had to yell and scream. But sometimes, like, you know, I'm sure that you probably don't like yelling and screaming with your wife, or your wife doesn't like yelling and screaming at you. But sometimes something just comes over you where you're just like, baby, like blah, 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 blah. You get so heated and so, you know, passionate about something that it just comes out. Man, came out in Sami last night, and I thought it worked. What about you, Mark?
No, not only did it work, but it resonated with me from the standpoint of Sami Zayn is one of the best guys that we have in the industry today on the microphone. And we talked about it through COVID. Sami was the best guy on the mic during COVID. He had a whole year and a half to cut promos on the crowd, and it was a role reversal. He was the bad guy. He was the problem at that time. And now he's the answer. He's the solution. And he's rebellion. He spoke with such passion and fervor that I mean, it was like going to church. I felt like he was preaching. And all of those people that were out there, Rhea and Dom, Priest, like Finn, they were invisible. Not one person in that building was looking at them. When you have the power to make 3 or 4 other superstars invisible, like, you are powerful. And that's what happened last night. Everybody, my eyes were on him, watching his chest flexion, watching his face, his hair swinging around. And you just knew that was going to come out because of the look on his face. He was so serious. He was, I mean, bro, it was an absolute clinic on how to get over and get attention and make people see you. And standing O.
Mark, just listening to him, I felt him. Mm-hmm. I believed him. I was on his side. When Sami said, whether it's 1-on-1, 1-on-2, 1-on-3, 1-on-4, I felt like somebody who wanted to stand side by side with Sami in his fight. He brought me in. He made me believe.
I wanted to be an ally.
I cared.
I wanted to be on his team.
I cared. You wanted to be on his team, and I cared. As a fan, if I could have stood up and jumped that guardrail and went and stood by his side, I would have. And here is, you know, it's that double-edged sword when it comes to promos, other people writing words for you that you would never say, or you're speaking from the heart from, you know, your own promo. Sami and Kevin, and you know what? We're not talking about Kevin right now. We're talking about Sami. Sami does a great job of taking what the WWE wants him to say and making it and owning it to himself.
Yeah.
And it is the little in between, the facials in between, or this eye contact that Sami makes saying that I'm part of the rebellion, the revolution, whatever words that he used, makes me forget that what I'm watching is sports entertainment. And
yes.
And don't you
Yes,
love that?
100%.
Don't you love that, Mark? Because we know exactly what we're getting in front of us. But if you can make me forget, and if you can make you forget, you're doing one hell of a job.
And that's what you ultimately want. That's why you go to the movies, to escape. That's why you watch all these streaming shows. Because you want to get away from the real world. I'll come home off the road. Handle my family duties, pay the bills, love on everybody, get the clothes done, whatever needs to be done, get it done and over with. And I will go and play video games because I'm a gamer. I don't actually play the game. You know what I do?
Huh?
I franchise. I run the organization.
Oh, okay.
On the games. I deal with the salary cap. I deal with, is this character happy? And they ask for trades or this and that. You know why I do that?
Tell me.
To take my mind off the real world.
Mm.
To not have responsibility just for a moment. To not to do something, but Sami Zayn made me, he made me feel like that, like I was playing the game last night. I didn't know that the world existed in that moment. All I knew is this man is standing on a soapbox and he is giving his heart out. And I believed every word that was coming out of his mouth. And I was leaning in like this. I'm sitting here talking to you. I was sit back like this with my arms folded. We started talking about Sami. What did I do? I leaned in. That's the effect that he has on you.
The lean in is so important. And I'll try to explain it, to fans, like, real life, when you're having a conversation with somebody, if you find yourself leaning in physically to what that person is saying, that's like your body language is giving off that you're more interested in what you have to say. Leaning in is body language. If you're talking to a girl and she, faces you and leans in, she's very invested in what you had to say. And when I say girl, I'm just saying it's a girl or a guy, whatever it is. When you when you lean in, you are basically showing your hand that you are very invested. And Mark, the lean in that you did last night, it's subconscious. You don't even really realize that you're leaning in. And this is what I love. I love when I lose myself in a moment in pro wrestling, and I realize a second later that I lost myself in pro wrestling. Because that's when I know the hook is in my mouth. And I'm not trying to sound like some kind of big shot here, Mark, but if you can put the hook in my mouth, you've accomplished something. Because you know how I look at wrestling. You know how I see things in a certain way. I love it when that hook goes in my mouth. I love it when you've been able to get me to a certain level where I'm like, oh shit, you got me. Sami got me.
He got me. He got us.
Don't you love watching pro wrestling, Mark, when they hook you and they reel you in? Listen,
I do.
Listen, you are responsible for one of the greatest hook me and reel me in moments in history. And I don't blow smoke. And I'm not just saying it because you're on the show with me. We just don't do that. You had an entire universe of wrestling fans, hook, line, and sinker. You put the hook in their mouth, you set the hook, you reeled them in, and then you bludgeoned them when you reeled them in the boat. And anybody who says, oh, I saw Mark Henry's turn coming from a mile away. Mom, make me another peanut butter and jelly sandwich and bring it to me in the basement. You're full of malarkey. Because I didn't see Mark Henry's turn coming. I thought it was a hell of a moment. And I'm like, holy shit, Mark's crying and everything. And then wham. This was me, Mark. Screen cap this, guys, and put this on social media. This was me, okay, when Mark Henry turned on Cena. Because you got me. And I think every wrestler should watch what you did. And I'm comparing it to what Sami did last night because the level of believability. I believed in what Sami said. I believed in what you said. I felt for you. I felt for Sami. I always talk about that word that is in the middle of believe. Lie. And if you don't believe your own lie, I'm not going to believe it. And you are lying your ass off, Mark Henry, you dirty mother trucking heel. But I believed every single last word. And that's what makes things work.
Bully, I love it myself when I'm in suspended belief. Dustin Rhodes and Cody Rhodes had a brother-brother match. And I was crying while the match was going on. I don't know if you remember that match, but even at the end, I'm just sitting there crying, and Sean Dean is sitting next to me. And he looks over and he double takes like, man, you okay? And I was like, what? I didn't realize I was crying. That's the power of wrestling. Like it can take you on a ride and get you out of the world. I think that's one of the things that I live for more now than I can't wrestle like I did before. My body is damaged. But if I make a suggestion and somebody follows through with it, and sometimes I'll just get emotional because I saw the execution of the plan. That happens too. That's about the most joy you get out of producing something or, working with a talent and seeing it come to fruition exactly what they wanted to put out there and what y'all plan was to get that done. I love that. And whoever worked on that segment, they didn't write those words for Sami. If they wrote those words, they'd be writing for the Oscars. They be writing for another TV show, a Netflix show or something. Sami Zayn was masterful.
The only counterpoint I would offer to that, Mark, is I don't believe Sami wrote that himself, but Sami has been there for so long that I believe that he probably works with a writer or two who is very in tune with what he does. Example, Brian Gewirtz and Rocky. Example, Jimmy Jacobs and Chris Jericho. You know, you start to work with certain producers or agents that you're in tune with, and they know how you speak. Thus, they
Arn
can put
Anderson was mine.
Oh, okay. For promos or for matches?
For matches and promos.
Okay. For matches, for me, it was.
Why
Pat
would
Patterson.
you try to? He would tell me all the time. Arn would say, "Why are you trying to be so wordy?" He said, "We know you smart, but they don't need to know you smart. They need to know you're mad."
Oof.
And
Love
I'll
it.
go, "Oh shit, okay, I see what you're saying," and I would go out there and be angry. And Arn is a genius when it comes to that type of stuff. And Sami has somebody in his ear that's really good, along with his talent. He is one of the smarter guys that we have in the wrestling business. You know, you've had a conversation with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's really, really smart. I mean, he's Glenn Jacobs smart. And I don't give everybody that. He's Jericho smart. There's a handful of guys in wrestling that when you talk to them, you feel dumb. Sami is one of those people. He is intelligent, man. Just a beautiful person too.
Mark, before we go to break, I'll always tell the story about having what I thought was the perfect match, and me, Jericho, and Christian presented it to Pat Patterson, and we thought we had dotted every I, crossed every T, filled in every blank, every hole, and we presented it to Pat, and within 10 seconds, Pat took a drag off his cigarette, blew it in the air, and said, "That's good, but did you ever think about doing it this way?" And Mark, I felt stupid. I said to myself, how the fuck did you not think of this
in 10 seconds?
How did I not think of this? So I pride myself in what I'm able to come up with. And I couldn't come up with this, and he did in 10 seconds. I felt dumb. So anyway, good stuff. Good stuff.